people like me. You need people like me so you can point your f***ing fingers and say, that's the bad guy.
The undisputed super featherweight champion of the world, Alicia, the Bumgarner.
That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
Welcome to the motherfucking relay. We're covering today's top boxing news.
There's something I do want to ask you about. Astrid Wett. You called that on. Can you make comment on that?
Yeah, I can. I mean, like, obviously, I'd like to. I'd batter the fuck out of her. It's not a realistic fight, but is it? Like, you know what I do. I'm a self-promoter. I'm just doing what we do best, getting people talking.
It causes a lot of traction.
Getting people talking about me. I've been quiet on socials lately. I've been going for my own shit. But I thought, you know what, fuck it. I saw her call out some footballer, and I was like, fuck, this is Astrid Wett, because me and Elle Brooke as well were like besties, and she was avoiding Ellen, but she was giving Elle a lot of shit. So I thought, all right, you want to fuck him? So I thought, fuck it. Okay, let's fight me then. It is what it is, isn't it? And I got people talking, got me more OnlyFans subscriptions. There's still keep coming, guys. I love you all, and trust me, it's better. My OnlyFans better than Astrid Wett's. And yeah, check out the tweets because they're pretty fucking good. I thought it was pretty good, but if she won that fight, I'd do it. Like I like beating people up.
Did you actually?
Yeah, no, I know, but they're doing. Mike Tyson's fighting fucking Jake Paul. Fuck me. Like, what the fuck? That's way worse, I think. I don't know. But, look, these kind of fights, you got to remember, obviously I want to fight. I want to get my world titles back. I want to get my world titles. But, hypothetically, if I get for the right money, of course I'm going to go beat up some fucking bitch. I like beating people up. And I'd fucking hurt her.
It seems that former IBF bantamweight champion Ebanie Bridges is in fact open to boxing a social media influencer for no other reason than she does like to fuck people up, which is true.
She does.
But I feel like the whole thing is a byproduct of something else, that if talks were underway for a Yoshida rematch, she wouldn't have time to call out an Astrid Wett.
She'd be getting ready for Mio.
Which begs the question, has any effort gone into making a Yoshida rematch? Has Matchroom offered Mio something? Because Mio doesn't seem otherwise preoccupied. She doesn't have a fight in the books. She doesn't seem to be under orders to satisfy her mandatory challenger, Shurita Metcalf, the woman who beat her not but 2 fights ago.
Mio doesn't seem to be doing anything.
And because she isn't, that gives off the impression that she is free to fight Ebony for a second time. So what's going on with that? Or what isn't? Some insights into the situation. My previous video, we talked about how a Twitter user responding to Ebony said that Eddie's gone quiet with the women's boxing since Saudi got involved. Since the Saudi money came in. Statement that's not actually true. Matchroom has announced a number of female title fights.
We just saw one with Sandy Ryan and Terry Harper.
The upcoming WBC featherweight title fight between Sky Nicholson and Sarah Mahfoud. The unification match at super bantamweight between Ellie Scottney and Sigaline Lafarve. Erica Cruz's super bantamweight title defense that was announced earlier this week between herself and Nazarena Romero. They have a number of female bouts coming up. In any event, the Twitter user felt that Eddie Hearn was kind of pulling back and pulling away from women's boxing matches and focusing on what they have going on in Saudi. To that, Ebony stated that Eddie Hearn is offering up insults as paydays to women.
Oh.
Not much more beyond that, but you kind of get the impression that maybe Eddie Hearn offered Ebony something for a bounce-back fight, a rebound fight, and she didn't like the number, she didn't like the money, which is why she's sitting here now without a fight in the books? Is that what it was?
I don't know, I'm just bouncing ideas around.
Yoshida is a Lou DiBella entertainment fighter. And where initially it was an opportunity for Lou's fighter, now it's an opportunity for Eddie's fighter. And Lou DiBella,
we all know how much he loves Eddie.
Much he loves Matchroom. I guess what I'm wondering is the fight, the rematch, now more difficult to negotiate because it's Eddie's fighter that needs the opportunity? Is it something like that? I really don't know. And what does Ebanie Bridges hope to make from a fight versus what Matchroom is offering at this point, now that she's not a champion anymore?
What did they offer her versus what does she want?
And is what she wants realistic? Is it viable? Because she doesn't have her belt anymore.
That matters.
We know that Ebanie has since parted ways with what was supposed to be her new corner, her new trainer, Adam Caldwell. She's not with him anymore.
It must not have been a good fit at all if the partnership only lasted one fight.
I don't really know what's next for Ebanie. I don't know what the status of her relationship with Matchroom is. I don't know when she's gonna fight, who she's gonna fight. I don't know.
Just have to wait and see what happens.
The way you said it to me, man. Oh, no. That's Of course not. No, of course not. But they're coming up to me saying all this shit. No, there's certain respect. I'm a father.
I know. Yeah. And I respect everyone.
Right,
but I will never say something like that.
Oh, beautiful. Let's keep it at that, man. The weasel.
What was the go there?
No, because I just called him out for being disrespectful, and he's trying to be Mr. Nice Guy. I'm not into this Mr. Nice Guy stuff now, you know? Like, you're going to be disrespectful? I'm not in for that, you know? Be real.
And you close it off, just leave it at that. You're saying just leave it at that.
Yeah, whatever. Right. Shouldn't even shook his hand, but it is what it is. Yeah. You know what? It's a try hard promoter. One of those guys, you know?
LC Saturday.
Exactly. This is a promoter, yeah? No attention needed, just low key.
Roll up. Exactly.
Right?
It would seem that Samson Leukowicz' penchant for being a double talker caught up to him at the press conference for Tszyu versus Fundora under pressure from the pressure fighter, Tszyu, who called him out on what he said. He called him out.
Somebody needs to.
I have several times here on this channel to no avail with David Benavidez's supporters, David Benavidez's fans. Samson Lewkowicz has come to the forefront of the sport on David's behalf because he is David's promoter. He's Sebastian Fundora's promoter as well.
Though most conversations involving Samson these days are about David Benavidez and the whole Canelo thing.
And what's any of this got to do with Tszyu?
What?
Well, it's because Tszyu called him out for being a double talker, for being a weasel. And yet this weasel is the anchor for many arguments that are being had. What this weasel said, who so easily folds under pressure and can't stand by what he says, can't stand on his words, can't stand on business.
Yeah.
But this is who you believe.
Yeah.
You want me to believe him when he says that he offered Canelo Alvarez all of this money, $55, $60 million, all kinds of crazy numbers being thrown out by a guy who doesn't have a network deal with any network. Samson Lewkowicz doesn't broker deals with broadcasters.
No.
Al Haymon does.
Eddie Reynoso said that Al Haymon never offered him David Benavidez. Canelo said the same thing, where Samson says he offered them 55 or 60 million.
Where the fuck is he gonna get that kind of money? He doesn't broker deals with networks.
Where?
Tszyu called him out. He called him out for being a double talker and labeled him a try-hard promoter. In truth, I couldn't have said it better myself. Coming from Tim, that's quite the statement, because Tim is a man of few words. He doesn't do much talking. He does his talking in the ring.
Yeah.
So when he says something like that,
Really drives the point home, doesn't it?
I remember many, many months ago, Samson was asked about David Benavidez and a potential Demetrius Andrade fight.
Shitted on it.
And I remember that Samson blew off that idea. I remember that he belittled Demetrius Andrade, his ability to fight, his ability to entertain, saying he wouldn't put any asses in the seats, he wouldn't sell a single ticket. We talked about it here on the channel, just for you to end up making a fight with that same guy.
Why?
You downplayed him as a fighter just for you to turn around and try to sell us a fight with that fighter?
Why?
It's because your fighter didn't want to fight David Morrell. You told us at the beginning of last year that you had already signed a contract on your fighter's behalf for your fighter to face David Morrell, just for your fighter to turn around and say, it's all bullshit. You didn't sign anything.
Connect the dots. He's calling Samson a liar.
If Samson tells you that they signed a contract to fight Morrell, and then Samson's fighter says, no, he didn't, that's all bullshit, what does that make Samson?
A liar.
And this is the guy you want me to believe found $55 or $60 million to offer Canelo, when Canelo himself and his manager are saying no one offered them anything.
This is who you want me to believe.
You can believe whatever the fuck you want to believe if you want to believe, Samson. Makes no difference to me. I don't come up to you guys wagging my finger in your face telling you what to believe. No, you do that to me, or you try to.
Because I don't believe him.
Why would I? He's a fucking double talker. He's a weasel. And Tszyu just called him out on it. Called him out on it on camera.
Wait a minute.
What?
You're saying you believe Canelo and Eddie Reynoso when they say Al Haymon never offered them, David?
I do.
Then how do you reconcile telling everybody that you think Canelo might fight David in September?
Because Al Haymon wants to use the celebrity of Canelo Alvarez to sell as many pay-per-views as possible. So he wouldn't make that fight the first fight of the deal or the second fight of the deal.
When has Al Haymon ever made big fights in a timely fashion?
Two things can be true at the same time. The initial deal that he struck with Canelo likely didn't feature David Benavidez.
That's what Eddie Reynoso and Canelo have been saying. That's what all the reports are saying.
Perhaps it's because Al Haymon wanted to save that one for last. He's got an assembly line of pay-per-views he wants to put on.
Sell as many as possible.
Those pay-per-views, in his mind, might pale in comparison to what he could do with the David Benavidez fight, so maybe he wanted to save that one for last. God knows, fights that size don't happen quickly in the sport of boxing, least of all when Al Haymon is involved. So two things can be true at the same time.
That's how I reconcile it.
So when I hear a Samson Lewkowicz carrying on about he offered Canelo this or he offered Canelo that, when he ain't got no money to offer Canelo, he's not even the one in control. Al Haymon is the one who's in control.
Of David Benavidez.
Not Samson. Al Haymon is in control of that fighter's career. Al Haymon, through the deals that he brokers. That's what pays David Benavidez's purses, not Samson.
So when Samson carries on about these multi-million-dollar 7 or 8 figure offers he's supposedly making, it all sounds like bullshit to me.
It always did. 1 minute he's saying that you can't offer Canelo Alvarez enough money to fight his fighter, that he's ducking his fighter, so that the very next minute he can say the fight might still happen and Canelo Alvarez is right to ask for a lot of money. Not only is he right to ask for it, he deserves it. He's the smartest man in the world.
That's literally what he said.
And I'm supposed to let this double-talking weasel put a battery in my back the way he's putting a battery in yours whenever he does the rounds on social media?
No, I don't believe him.
And if you do, you're fucking gullible and stupid.
Your manager said you'd be willing to vacate the WBO belt to fight Errol Spence before fighting Crawford. Would you do something like that?
What? Who said that?
I said your manager.
My manager?
Your manager.
I'm going to have to talk to my manager.
Yeah.
Hey, Tim.
I ain't vacated nothing yet.
You may have not.
But it was written the following day that I had said we were going to vacate. Look, even if I had that, mate, I would have said that it was something that would be considered, because initially it was Thurman and now there's a mandated Crawford fight.
Oh, okay.
And when you consider everything, which we do, but never would I say we're going to vacate the WBO. No way in the world. I mean, Tim's the champion. We have no reason to vacate. So I hope that settles it. And even if I had said it, apologies. It certainly wouldn't have been meant in that context. Perhaps the fact that I may have said that it would be something we consider with the Crawford option. But mate, honestly, a 1 hour podcast amongst a day of media, I can't even recall the discussion. I really can't.
Tszyu versus Errol Spence doesn't have to be a bad fight. It doesn't have to be a bad fight, but it doesn't have to be the next fight either, because for it to be next, that doesn't make sense. In the sporting sense of the word, Tszyu reacted to being called out by Errol Spence, who said he's making his way to Las Vegas and he wants the winner of this weekend's fight. Tim said, beautiful, he's finally awake. I thought he was asleep for a long time. I'll fight any of them, whatever's easiest to make. If I was given the Spence fight, I'd take it. If I was given the Terrence Crawford fight, I'd take it.
It's more like it.
At least that is more in keeping with what I've come to expect from Tszyu than what was initially reported, because what was initially reported was that he would drop the WBO title for the chance to fight Spence. And if you're being ordered to fight Terrence Crawford and you drop your belt to fight the man that he beat instead...
What am I supposed to say?
It's not like Errol Spence lost the competitive fight. It's not like he lost a competitive match that had back and forth and ebbs and flows. That was all one-way traffic. And if you skirt around the guy that did that to him, skirt around the guy that beat him to fight him at the expense of your belt...
Wait a minute. How is what Tszyu saying here different from what was initially reported? How is it different?
Because there's no preference. What he's saying is I'd fight either of them. If they were offered, I'd fight either of them. And that sounds more like the Tim that we've come to know than what was initially reported, that he would fight either guy. Yeah, I could see that.
He said he's not vacating his title.
That's what he said.
You said. Tszyu versus Errol Spence doesn't have to be a bad fight, but it doesn't have to be the next fight. So ideally, when would it go down?
You figure that if Tim goes in there with Terence Crawford in his next fight, and he loses, I think he'd lose that fight, he could fight Errol afterwards, at which point Errol will have had a tune-up fight to get himself back in the winner's bracket, little confidence-building fight, and then you could do the fight between them after a Crawford fight, but not before it.
Before it just doesn't make sense in the sporting sense of the word. Now, maybe in the business sense, depending on whose business you're talking about.
The caveat is that Terence Crawford wants a lot of money. It's rumored that his asking price for the fight is about 15 mil up front. Up front. Guaranteed.
It's a lot.
I think the number is a doable number with pay-per-views that you sell in America in tandem with what pay-per-views you sell in Australia, as well as auctioning off the foreign rights to the fight to the highest bidder.
It's doable.
Caveat is you're asking for that up front. You're asking for that straight away, which makes the show difficult to put on. Risky. If you're getting 15 up front, what's Tim getting?
Say you want 15 and Tim wants 10.
That's a $25 million pot between the two of you. That's not even counting what you have to pay the undercard fighters, operational costs, the production team, the crew.
It's a lot.
Maybe asking yourself, well, if you figure that's a lot of money, how do you figure that the number is doable? Well, you probably could generate enough to where the fighters get at or around that money. They're in that neighborhood.
Nominal guarantees.
Could probably generate that kind of money with the upside of the pay-per-view, but you don't want to make the upside of it difficult to reach. And if Crawford wants 15 and
15 mil.
Tim wants 10.
Now the show's risky to put on.
That is $25 million between just those two fighters. $25 million. So what you do is you give them nominal guarantees. I don't know. Say you give Terence 5 or 6. You give Tim 3 or 4.
You can cover that. You know you can cover that. And whatever else comes in after it breaks even, that's upside.
That's profit. Part of what makes fights so difficult to do in this postmodern era of boxing is so many boxers want so much money, so much of it up front, which makes shows riskier to put on. That's why the second Wilder versus Fury fight flopped, even though it sold more pay-per-views than the first fight, because the guarantees were so high.
You overshot it.
They made money from the first one, even though it sold way less pay-per-views than the second one did, but the second one was a lot more expensive to put on because of the guarantees.
They were a lot bigger.
Think about that. Think about this. Tszyu versus Terence Crawford fight can sell 300,000 or just north of 300,000 in North America, and it'll sell in Australia, but both teams need to be flexible. Crawford,
he's got to be flexible.
Because he can make money from this fight. He can, and he can win it, but you don't want to make it to where the show's too risky to put on.
It doesn't have to be risky if you play with the numbers.